What's up, and welcome back to another episode of Keeping Up with the Commanders. I'm your host, Mason Kenahan, and football is finally here. The Washington Commanders play a football game in 2 days against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday. I'm here to break that game down. We're going to go over the Buccaneers offense, the Buccaneers defense. We'll also, before we get into that, we're going to talk about probably one of the biggest moves that Adam Peters made this offseason. Before we get to that. So we've got a lot to talk about on this episode. I'm excited for it. So let's just jump right into it with Adam Peters. I would say probably a top 3 move that Adam Peters made this offseason. It came on the eve of the NFL season, and that is signing Sam Cosmi, the guard, to a 4-year, $74 million extension. It's an average annual value of 18.5, I believe 45 million guaranteed or 42 million guaranteed for Sam Cosmi. It's a lot of money for a guard, but also I would say this is a very, very team-friendly contract from Adam Peters. There hasn't really been much movement on a Sam Cosmi extension, or at least like people have heard haven't have heard much movement on a Sam Cosmi extension over these last months throughout the offseason. It's been kind of focused on Adam Peters coming in, Dan Quinn coming in, and bringing in their own guys. There isn't really that many players on the roster that need to stick around or that are worth sticking around long term. But Sam Cosmi is one of those guys, the best offensive lineman Washington had last season and for the last couple of years, really. The former second-round pick out of Texas back in 2021 gets the bag this offseason. Cosmi, like I mentioned, by far, the best Washington Commanders offensive lineman. 777 pass blocking snaps last year and only allowed 1 sack on all of those plays. This contract, 4 years, $74 million, makes him the 5th highest paid guard in the National Football League, which is not bad. It's not bad. I would probably put Cosmi in the top 5, but saying, most players that think they're probably in the top 5 at their position kind of reset the market every year. This is a very good contract. I would have expected Cosmi to probably get 20, 21 million average annual value. Peters got him at 18.5. I love to see it. I love to see it. Save a couple extra millions of dollars every year with that type of contract. Also, this contract, 4 years for Cosmi, so that puts Cosmi under contract for the next 5 years, which is kind of the same. He's now under contract for as many years as Jayden Daniels is under contract, which is very important for this Washington Commanders franchise and the future of it. You need players to block for Jayden Daniels. Sam Cosmi is someone who will put the body on the line, will go out there and perform well week in and week out. He had one of his best. I think last year was his best season in the National Football League. In 4 out of his last 5 games, I believe, he had a PFF grade of over 80, which again is amazing to see for a guy that kind of struggled early on in his career at right tackle. You moved him inside to right guard, and you've seen a lot more success there. So again, the future for him was always the best case scenario was he was going to be the franchise right tackle. That didn't end up being the case, but you've got a very, very good right guard that is now under contract throughout his prime. So you love to see it. Great move by Adam Peters as well. Again, I don't know if this was the past regime with Ron Rivera. I don't know if they would sign Sam Cosmi to an extension. It was again on the eve of the NFL season this past Wednesday. There wasn't much talk about a Sam Cosmi extension this entire offseason. That was kind of one of the big looming factors that kind of went a little bit under the radar. It wasn't really talked about as much just because the team drafted Jayden Daniels, the addition of Brandon Coleman on the offensive line. You have a new head coach and a new general manager coming in. There's just so many other storylines that the Sam Cosmi thing was kind of flying a little bit under the radar, but was still like looming. He was going to be a free agent after this season, no matter what. Now, you could ultimately franchise tag him if that ended up being the case, but luckily we don't have to find out what Adam Peters would have done if Sam Cosmi were to hit the open market next March. So Sam Cosmi under contract, 4 years, $74 million, 18.5 average annual value, making him the 5th highest paid guard in the league. Great value for Adam Peters, great value for the Washington Commanders. Plus, Sam Cosmi gets a lot of money. So you love to see it. You love to see it for Washington. Now, I kind of want to move on. That's kind of probably the big storyline of the week. Now I want to move on to Sunday. The Washington Commanders play a football game at Raymond James Stadium on Sunday against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The last time Washington played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady was their starting quarterback. It was the season after Heineke's pylon dive. It was in 2022. Um, Taylor Heineke and this Washington offense were on the field for over 10 minutes, 22 play drive to win the game and keep Tom Brady off the field in the fourth quarter. They ended up winning by 10, I believe, in that one. So it was it was a good game for Washington. I believe Washington was 2-6 at the time, and Tampa Bay was 6-2. So it was a pretty big upset for the Commanders. Now this time around, I feel like both teams are pretty balanced in terms of where they're at in terms of skill level and talent on the roster. I would give the edge to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but again, this is a game that Washington totally can win. I know a lot of fans are optimistic. I would be too, because we don't exactly know what we're going to get of Jayden Daniels yet. We've seen the flashes over the offseason and over the preseason as well, but we haven't seen him play a full entire game against a ton of starters. So, again, he didn't play against the starters when we played the Jets. He didn't play against the starters when they played the Dolphins. So, this is the first time in live game action we're going to see Jayden Daniels against the team's starting defense. And, well, I'll get to that a little bit later in the episode, but this defense for Tampa Bay is not one to be messing around with. We're going to start with the offense, though, because similar to Washington, the offense is kind of getting a little bit of a brand new look for Tampa Bay this season. You've got Liam Coen coming in as the first-year offensive coordinator after Tampa Bay lost Dave Canales to the Carolina Panthers to be the Panthers head coach. So Liam Coen comes in from Kentucky. He was the offensive coordinator at Kentucky in 2021 and 2023. In 2022, he was the offensive coordinator for Sean McVay's Los Angeles Rams. Cohen's only 38 years old. He's got like a younger philosophy in terms of what he likes to do. A lot of motions pre-snap, a lot of misdirection pre-snap. He's not very static like what the Tampa Bay offense was similar to last year. And what you'll see out of Cliff Kingsbury as well. It will be a lot of static, not a lot of motion from Cliff Kingsbury. So it'll be two completely different offenses on the field, I would say, pre-snap on Sunday. Kentucky last year ranked top 25 in play action, so expect a lot of that. Coen uses play action a ton in his offense. That'll probably be one of the staples, especially with a quarterback like Baker Mayfield. It'll be interesting to see how it goes, because last year Baker Mayfield ranked 7th in EPA per dropback with no play action, but then was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league with play action, ranking 27th. So Mayfield and play action was not great last year. I think it was somewhat because of the progressions for Baker, right? If you go play action, you've probably got 1-2 reads before the pressure is on you to go and make a play. So Baker Mayfield was a lot better without that last year, which is, I mean, it's fine. He's definitely calm under pressure. He was good against the blitz last year as well. So it was interesting to find out that Mayfield and play action wasn't that great, and that he's just better on his own without the misdirection, and when he's under pressure and against the blitz. It'll be interesting to see how much Coen will want to use play action with a quarterback that really struggled with it last year. We'll have to wait and see on that one. In terms of Mayfield himself, he struggled getting the ball deep downfield last year. He was 28th in completion percentage over expected on throws 20-plus yards down the field. So that should be a key thing for Washington, trying to make Baker throw the ball far, really. It should be part of the game plan for Dan Quinn in that defense. Make him feel uncomfortable in the pocket. I believe he had one of the longest time to throws as well last season as well. Forced it downfield a lot, 12% of the time, which was in the top 10 in the league last year. So he likes to throw it deep, but he's not very good at it. That's where Washington's secondary needs to take advantage. They need to create some turnovers. We did not really see that a lot in the preseason, and that's definitely been a problem with Washington's secondary over the last couple of years in the Ron Rivera defense. Can Dan Quinn's defense force some turnovers? That's kind of been one of their main strengths in Dallas over the last couple of seasons. Hopefully, they're able to force Baker into some uncomfortable situations and throwing up some 50-50 balls, because guys like Benjamin St. Juste, guys like Sanders Stowe, guys like Forbes are going to need to win those battles, because Baker's going to throw it deep. And when you got receivers like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans catching those balls, it could get ugly very fast. So I think the outside corners will definitely have a lot of pressure on them. Will Forbes and will St. Juste be able to will they be able to step up and make some plays down the field? That would be a key part for Washington's defense this week. Rachaad White, in terms of the run game, not a good year last year. He was kind of bottom or near the bottom in every advanced rushing stat, rushing yards over expected, yards per contact, stuff like that. He struggled a lot. It was unfortunate. I had him on a fantasy team. It was very bad last season. We'll see how Liam Coen wants to use him in that offense, especially with the addition of Bucky Irving as well, who they drafted out of Oregon, who's he's like a receiving back, but also very elusive as well. So we'll have to see how much they want to use Bucky Irving in that offense. But overall, I think you just gotta make Baker feel uncomfortable, make him throw, because he will turn the ball. He will turn the ball over. He had double-digit interceptions last year, only 17 touchdowns. He will throw the ball over. Turn the ball over if you put him in some uncomfortable situations. Now, he is good to get the ball out under pressure and against the blitz. He's good with the short stuff. That's probably one of his strengths. But forcing him to throw downfield will be a big thing for Washington. Hopefully, they'll be able to do that. You've got guys like Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner who's going to be covering kind of the flats. And then potentially maybe even Jayden Davis. We'll have to see what happens with him in that defense because he's been playing mostly pass rusher throughout the entire entire preseason. So you'll have the linebackers. I expect Washington to play a lot of nickel and dime packages just because they have so many defensive backs on this final roster. So there'll be a lot of dime and nickel packages, I feel like, which in some ways could help force things downfield for Baker Mayfield. But also guys on the outside still have to step up, like the Emmanuel Forbes against Mike Evans. I'm not gonna lie, guys, it scares me. It scares me a ton because there's gonna be 2 or 3 passes. There's gonna be 2 or 3 passes to Mike Evans on 9 routes down the field or a post route down the field, and Forbes will be on him. Maybe he'll have some safety help. Maybe he won't. But I mean, hopefully he has some safety help. That's for sure. But if he doesn't, can he win those 50-50 balls against a guy like Mike Evans? That's going to be something that's going to kind of be big in terms of how this game plays out. Will Tampa Bay get these big-time plays down the field, or can a guy like Forbes or St. Juste break up these passes without picking up a defensive pass interference call? So that's the offense for Tampa Bay and Liam Coen, again, the first-year offensive coordinator, only 38 years old, coming over from Kentucky last year. Spent some time with the Rams, but he's been at Kentucky 2 of the last 3 years. Moving on now to Todd Bowles and his defense. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers don't have a defensive coordinator. They have a run game coordinator and a pass game coordinator. But Todd Bowles has kind of ran this defense over the last 5 or so seasons. He runs a lot of cover 3, 20+% of the time. Some of the most, really, in the entire NFL last year. The defense was 24th in pass EPA and 5th in run EPA. Stacked boxes were a big thing with Todd Bowles' defense the last year. They ran it over 40% of the time, stacked boxes against the run. So the run game will be interesting to see how this offensive line succeeds against a stacked box, because we saw Brian Robinson have some success. The run game was working when the starters were out there in the preseason against the Jets and against the Dolphins. Will the run game continue to work against these stacked boxes? We'll have to wait and see. Brandon Coleman, his status is still up in the air. Probably by the time this episode comes out, we'll know if Coleman is going to be starting or not at left tackle. If I had to make a prediction, I would say he will be. But again, it's not been announced yet. It'll probably be announced sometime Friday or Saturday. So, yeah, the run is something that Tampa Bay has really been good at. You look at guys like Kalijah Cansey, Vita Vea. They're going to stop the run. Tampa Bay will stop the run. They're going to force Jayden Daniels to pass. Well, I mean, they're going to force Jayden Daniels to throw the ball, because I don't know how much success the run game will have on this defense. This defense that likes to stack the box a ton. But there will be holes in this Tampa Bay secondary for Jayden Daniels to exploit. This Tampa Bay secondary, like I said, was one of the worst last year, and then they also traded away Carlton Davis. You got to watch out for Antoine Winfield, one of the best safeties. I believe he was a first-team All-Pro last year at safety for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But Jayden Daniels is going to have to find the holes in the secondary and deliver. That'll also be kind of on Cliff Kingsbury. We'll have to see how static this offense is going to be pre-snap, because that was one of the big cons of the Cliff Kingsbury offense when he was in Arizona. And I was kind of a question, was that something that just Kyler preferred in Arizona? Or was that something that Cliff Kingsbury, part of his go-to stuff? And over the preseason, we found out that it's part of Cliff Kingsbury's go-to stuff. He's not really throwing he's not showing a lot yet throughout the preseason, you could say, but it was very static pre-snap. Still stuff offensively for Jayden Daniels to read through. So not a lot of movement in motion and all of that pre-snap. We'll have to wait and see. I expect this team to be one of the lowest in the league pre-snap in terms of motion, but we'll have to wait and see for that one. Jayden Daniels, I mentioned, he just got to take advantage of the holes in the secondary, because there will be holes. It'll be interesting to see how the RPO game works with Jayden. If there'll be some read option calls with Jayden, I'm excited to see. I don't know how much they'll make him run, though. I would expect probably 7 to 10 rushes against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for Jayden Daniels. So, expectations for Jayden, I hope he looks calm. He looks poised against this defense. I think 2 passing touchdowns is probably a good goal for Jayden Daniels, or just 2 touchdowns in general, whether it be 1 pass, 1 run, or 2 passes, 2 runs, I think that's probably the goal. And just, I mean, it's kind of, it's a little bit of a pun, but like command of the offense, command of the huddle for Jayden Daniels. Just show that he's poised, he knows what he's doing. He's not confused in terms of the play call and all of that. He's going to make mistakes this season. He's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. Even a guy like CJ Stroud made some pretty bad mistakes last season. But hopefully we see more good than bad on Sunday, and hopefully we come out with the win at the end of the day. So those are my expectations for Jayden. In terms of my final thoughts now, if I had to say an X factor, I would definitely say Brandon Coleman, assuming he starts. Coleman has not played this preseason. It'd show a lot of confidence that Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury have in Brandon Coleman if they trot out Coleman, the 3rd round rookie, with that starting offensive line for his first live game action in the NFL on Sunday. I think it'll be very important for him to get comfortable quickly, especially if he starts, because they're going to throw a lot at Brandon Coleman and guys. Yeah. So that's my X factor in terms of final score prediction. First week of the season, I know on Thursday night we kind of saw a little bit of a high-scoring one between the Ravens and Chiefs. I would probably have to go 21-17 Buccaneers win. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be low-scoring. I expect these defenses to shine, especially this Tampa defense will be interesting to watch. I think just Washington's defense just has to limit the big plays, really, in that secondary. They cannot allow Mike Evans to get 30-yard chunks, 40-yard chunk plays with Baker Mayfield on 50-50 balls. That's going to be a big key to this game, is limiting the chunk plays through the passing game. I feel like the run defense will be fine. It was good during the preseason when the starters were out there. It's just the secondary really scares me, guys. The secondary really scares me, and I could see that could be the downfall of the Commanders this week, is the weakness in that secondary, and potentially throughout the season as well. But yeah, that'll do it really for today's episode. of Keeping Up with the Commanders. We're going to have preview shows now out every Friday, and then the week recaps out every Monday. We're going to be trying to get guests on the pod for these previews and recaps. That'll be it for me for today's episode. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys next one. Peace.